So the question is more about what I call personal people. And the question is maybe I need to train my mind to be less annoyed when I'm being interrogated by personal people. Personal people are ego. So, one of the best definitions of ego is it's the false self. Your real self is your soul. And this hat is the CN Tower, okay? And for me, it represents the Tower card in the tarot deck. The tarot deck is about archetypes, and it's about the journey of the Fool. Up at the top of the tower, well, it's going to be somewhat hard to see, but it's here. This is the CN Tower up here, way up here. That's the top of the tower. And at the top of the tower, that's where the ego sits. Another good example of who sits way up here at the top of the tower is Saruman, the very egoic, nasty wizard from Lord of the Rings. Okay, so when we're going to go and connect all the dots, I'm going to put on my Vasily Fisk hat. That's Fisk. And Vasily Fisk is a metaphysical detective, and he's going to connect some things for us in a minute. Okay, this is my Rumpelstiltskin hat. Rumpelstiltskin is not coming to talk, but he is the one who first broached the subject to me of personal people. And he just said, personal people pollute. And I told you personal people are ego. So ego, which stands for edging God out, ego pollutes, edging God out. So what else do you want to know about it? Why would you allow an egoic to interrogate you? You would set a boundary and say, I don't want your interrogation, Mr. Ego. And what about the annoyance factor? Well, that is a good point. Who is annoyed when an egoic person interrogates you? One answer is your own ego. Another person might call it reactive mind. asking personal questions to someone is prying into their business. It is. It's prying in. So, what else could the annoyance be? The annoyance could be a boundary. Expressing annoyance could be a social cue saying, don't go there. Rather than being a doormat and saying, just go through all my things, it's all there for you to go into. So for my mind training, I'm going to tell you, I don't know. That's the way it was worded. And was it worded from my soul or was it through my ego? I don't know. It's a great question. Okay, now this looks like the Tasmanian devil. And remember, we at the top of the CN Tower up here, we had Saruman from Lord of the Rings, and he was a nasty wizard. So, a nasty wizard could be this one right here, sharp fang teeth. And that's ego up there. So why would you let this thing into your personal space? One thing I read this past week said that the self, with the capital S, self, shows compassion to the small s, self. So the self shows compassion to, is it the ego or the soul? What is the lowercase self? I don't know how you want to interpret it. Because the capital S self is, depending on the way you want to interpret it. I've seen some people say there is only one soul. In all the multiverse, there's one soul. And we're all aspects of it or fractals of it. But some people say, well, as humans, we have our individuality, and some people say you have a twin flame, and then the two of you together are part of a monad. Or no, is that correct? A monad? I can't remember. It was like you, twin soul. Maybe it was oversoul and then monad. I don't know. It's another interpretation, and it's secondhand. I don't get it myself, and I can't even give you clarity on it. But that's somebody else's interpretation of it. So in that case, is you, are you individually, your fractal, is that the small self? Why would you show compassion to ego? Remember, ego is the false self. And on the scale of human consciousness, ego is really low on the scale of human consciousness. At the highest level, where is ego? I think it's really difficult to say. Is it everything below enlightenment? Or is it everything below courage? In other words, is the highest you get as an ego pride? Would the capital S, self, be annoyed? No, I can't see how the self would get annoyed. The whole point of it is, as a human being, I said in one of my talks today, at any one time, Dr. David R. Hawkins, who muscle tested it, said at any one time there's only about 6 enlightened sages on planet Earth. 6 out of 7 billion humans. So it's human to get annoyed. And if you're going to pretend that you don't get annoyed, you're a put on. You're wearing a mask. Is there a better way to react than annoyance when people are being intrusive? I mean, the whole thing is the kind of questions that I'm talking about are surface clutter. What do you do for a living? That's what people want to know. What do you do for a living? What street do you live on? What city do you live in? These questions are surface clutter. They belittle human beings because it's I want to know these things so I can judge you. That's why people ask these questions. And good psychiatrists that write these best-selling psychological self-help books, that's what they say. That's where I get that from. It's not a good question to ask somebody, especially when you first meet them. And it's what a lot of people do. A lot of people do. But if it's an annoyance to me, it's because people asking me this question haven't done any real work on themselves. So they're all ego. And they're all about judging other people based upon the color of their skin, what school they went to, how much money they've got is a huge thing. Are you a garbage collector, or are you whatever they think is very high on the totem pole, depending on what they're looking for? Status. So, in response to your basic question, training my mind not to be annoyed when I get personal questions from people I don't know. I like being annoyed. Now, maybe there's a way for a calm person to explain why they don't want to answer all of these personal questions. In a seminar, in a self-help seminar. But for day to day, I've just talked for 17 minutes. Every time someone, a personal person, an ego person, ask me this kind of surface clutter question, am I going to take 20 minutes to explain to them why I don't want to answer their questions like this? No, I don't. There are 7 billion egoic people on the planet, and I don't have enough time in my lifetime to explain these things to them. And as far as gifting my time to them, I'm gifting my time to the world right now on this social media channel. And I've gifted all my videos to the world. And if the world doesn't come beating to my channel, it's not like I didn't do the work. This is the Buddhist philosophy. You do the work, and the end results are not your issue. So I'm doing the work. I'm explaining to the world the way I feel and the things I can teach them. And I'm not charging any money for it. And if it's the Facebook algorithm that's keeping people away from my channel, or it's because people are more interested in searching for highlights of the NFL, it's not my fault. It's not my issue. It's just easier for me to set a boundary. And a good way to set a boundary with people is when they start getting too personal. It's for me to become the Tasmanian devil and show them annoyance because it's a social cue. And then they're going to go, maybe this guy is taking offense and maybe I should back off. Because if you don't show people your inner Tasmanian devil, they're going to walk all over you. And that is the goddamn truth. So I'm not going to change my mind training when it comes to personal people and personal questions. I'm going to show annoyance, and I'm going to bare my teeth, and if people push me, I'm going to get really angry and loud and aggressive. Because that's how you survive on planet Earth. That's what works. So, if you think differently, Let people walk all over you or figure it all out differently. But in my years on this planet, I have told many people I am not a doormat. And when I was very young, my parents brought me to church and they taught me the Jesus teachings. Turn the other cheek kind of thing, like the Jesus thing. It doesn't work on the playground. You get bullied. You get bullied until you put up your dukes and you show people your Tasmanian devil. It's the only thing bullies respect, is you setting a boundary and enforcing it. And I don't care if the bully is anything, any kind of person it is, because I see these bullies in every male, female, any other kind of physical description you want, any kind of age you want, any kind of status you want. So if you got a suggestion of something better to do than showing off your inner Tasmanian devil, and you got some way to make it work, I mean, I've read stories. There was one story, a lady who was in New York City, late at night. She got on the subway and she was, I don't know, let's say she was 60 years old. And there were a bunch of hoodlums on the train. And she kept her vibration very high. She played a grandmotherly kind of person. And her testimony was the hoodlums treated her like a grandmother. There were lots of grandmothers in Germany. And Hitler rounded them up. So, keep your vibration high. It's a good policy. In other words, staying very conscious and calm is a good idea. But when someone starts getting into your personal space, personal business, what are you going to do? Are you going to play a victim for them? Because your high consciousness didn't protect you? Or are you going to get very aggressive with your personal boundary? For me, I'll keep my consciousness high, and it pretty much works with a lot of people. I know, because I go to karaoke at bars, and there's drunk people at bars, and quite often they don't respect social cues and they want to get in your space. And if you keep your vibration high, pretty much they won't stick around in your space. But once in a while, regardless of how high your vibration is, somebody has got something up their ass, and your vibration doesn't work to keep them away. And then you gotta be this thing. So you gotta have your personal toolkit. Thanks for the question. It's a great question. Much appreciated. Thank you for all your comments. And if you're watching this for the first time, please subscribe and share it out if it makes sense to you.